Well, welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joining me today from the Department of Ag, Trade, Consumer Protection, it's Lara Sutherland. Lara, welcome back to the show. And it's the most wonderful time of year. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I'm going to do it anyways. The most wonderful time of year, the top 10 consumer complaint countdown. Am I the only one excited about this?
No, it's very exciting.
And I'm sure because
you want to know about how many times people have been exploited, but
well, yeah, I mean, it's not, I guess, not the most wonderful top 10 list, but it also kind of shows people what we're dealing with still on a regular basis. And it's sad that we're going to do the top 5 in this interview. So we're going to start with that. Michael's going to help us with the top 10. But number 1 this year, telemarketing. It's back. No, it never went away. That's the problem. Tell us about these telemarketers and the complaints you received.
That's right. So number 1 is no surprise to anybody. Out of the over 11,000 consumer complaints that we received, telemarketing came in at 2,700. So lots of telemarketing complaints come into the department. And you're right, we sort of made light about the top 10, but this is really important for the department to see what's happening in the state of Wisconsin, how to allocate our resources with education, with enforcement, with investigation. So it is a really important time for us. And we're happy that you're highlighting it for your constituency so people understand what are the big areas of fraud in your community and how can you protect yourself from them. So not surprisingly, telemarketing continues to be the top consumer concern in Wisconsin for 2021. And a lot of these complaints are the ones that you imagine, the unsolicited texts and calls that come into your phone asking you for any number of things which are trying to part you with your identity and from your money. But there are also those folks who are violating the do not call list. And as we often talk about, these are 2 different groups of people. The folks that are scamming you and sending you fake solicitations to steal your money and your identity are just that. They're scammers, they're fraudulent, and they're trying to steal your money. They're thieves. A lot of the folks that violate the do not call list are trying to sell you something. They have a service or a good that they're trying to sell you. What they haven't done is properly registered on the do not call list to be permitted to call you and solicit you. So those are 2 different things and carry with them 2 different kinds of investigations. And we handle both. So it's a distinction that we like to make because oftentimes people say, I'm on the do not call list. Why am I continuing to get these calls? Well, that's because scammers, not only do they not care about the do not call list and registering, they don't care about any laws because they're trying to lie to you about who they are and steal your money. So a requirement to register is not a real deterrent from somebody who's, trying to break into your life and steal your money.
And too, being with COVID, and that's going to throw the numbers off, I'm sure, in the report a little bit this year, but because more people are at home or more people, do you think the numbers increase, decrease this year because of COVID? How did that play in not only telemarketing, but all of your top 10?
Well, actually, interestingly, it's dropped. This number has dropped for the 3rd year in a row. And that is probably the number of complaints we've gotten. And my guess is that's less of a reflection of people getting fewer calls and more of a reflection of people understanding what these calls are and how to avoid them. And through the efforts of the department and education and also some of the technology that's out there to screen these calls and prevent people from actually being defrauded. So I think that probably contributes to the number of complaints that have gone down, But what hasn't gone down are the number 2 complaint, which is our landlord tenant complaints. That remains a critical concern for Wisconsinites. And that comes in at almost 1,700 complaints of the over 11,000 that we have seen in the department.
Yeah, and I think tied potentially to COVID. I would assume that not only, prior to COVID, it was going up regardless, but people were put in tougher situations this year because of COVID in some cases, but in others, it's still a hot button issue. And I think the education, you guys have a pretty strong education piece behind this, but what do we got to do to help mend the issues that are being reported?
Right. We do have a very strong education component to working with folks who have landlord-tenant concerns. In fact, we had more than 100,000 visits to our landlord-tenant consumer resources on our website this year. 65,000 of those visits were to the landlord-tenant COVID FAQ webpage, and 50,000 were to the landlord-tenant guide. So really good resources. And you're correct that COVID brought with it a moratorium on evictions that was brought to the fore questions about how to comply with that. So we got questions from both landlords and tenants and provide resources to both, because as you know, landlords and tenants have rights and responsibilities under Wisconsin's law. And we do what we can to both educate folks, but also mediate those complaints when they can't get them resolved. And, you know, when it comes to landlord-tenant, it's important to recognize that a lot of times we can get these resolved at the mediation level. You know, first we encourage tenants to connect with their landlords, see if they can't get it resolved. Sometimes it's a miscommunication. Sometimes just having one-on-one communication can get it resolved. If you can't, you should document that. You should document what your concerns are, how you try to connect with your landlord, and then be in touch with the department with those documents, with that information to see if they can help you. And oftentimes they can. Of course, where they can't, or where we see issues of what appears to be a pattern of violations of Wisconsin law, we do investigations. And we've had a number of fairly sizable investigations that we've referred to the Department of Justice, one of which is a company called Barada Properties, that the department has filed a number of complaints, has investigated and referred it to the Department of Justice for enforcement, and the Department of Justice did file a complaint. So we sort of do the whole spectrum. We field the questions, do the education, we do the mediation, and where we see appropriate, we refer to the authorities to do some enforcement if that seems like where we need to go.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you explaining it out, because it can be complicated to work through those issues. And I know you guys will continue to do a great job of getting the resources out there to help people mitigate those issues as they do come up. Rounding out the top three, identity theft, home improvement, and telecommunications. Identity theft on the rise, probably not a big surprise. Home improvement ones too. I'm guessing you're seeing some, a lot of people are doing home improvements the last couple of years, especially. So not surprising there. Yeah.
So home improvement, absolutely. People were at home. Some folks had extra money that they weren't spending on traveling and what have you, and we're looking to do in home improvement. That sort of conflated with, or intersected, I should say, with some supply chain challenges. So we did get more complaints around those issues. Not all of which were violations of law, obviously, but some are. We tend to get a fair amount of home improvement complaints where contractors perceivably have not complied with our law, particularly around having a lien waiver, contractual obligations, that kind of thing. And so, you know, certainly when people are pushed out of the workforce, it's not uncommon for contractors to pick up their tools to, you know, make extra money, and that can result in contractors that don't know the law and aren't in compliance. So there's a whole lot of reasons that feed into that home improvement number. And then just backtracking a little bit to number three, identity theft, you know, we're really seeing a rise in these complaints, and that's true nationally. Lots of identity theft complaints. The FTC is reporting significant losses in ID theft around romance scams and cryptocurrency scams. So you are seeing more of this as more and more people are online sharing their identity for school, for shopping, for social media. One of the interesting things that you'll see from some of the FTC numbers on ID theft is that the theft is predominantly in the 18 to 35 age. It's not where the most money is lost, because that's not where the most money is, but more and more 18 to 35-year-olds are finding themselves victims of this fraud. And that's for the reasons I probably said, which is being online, sharing more and more information in all facets of your life. So we have lots of information about how to keep yourself safe from ID theft. We encourage you to visit our website and check that out. We also have a team of folks that if you're experiencing ID theft, it is clear that you are missing money from your banking account, that it's not something you did, or if you have a line of credit that has been opened and you know that someone is using your identity, be in touch with our department. We have some resources and staff that are experts and working in this space and can help you repair your identity and hopefully get your money back.
All right. Well, I appreciate the breakdown. I know we didn't get there's so much to talk about here, and I appreciate you sharing the time. We'll pick up on the other 10 coming up with Michael a little bit later in the month. But for you, Lara, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it as always. And we'll check back in with y'all real soon.
Okay. Thanks, Jeremy, for having me.
You bet. Check out the Department of Bank Trade Consumers website for more information and the full breakdown of the top 10 list. We'll take a quick break. More to come. You're watching Talking Fitchburg.